The AI Writer is an AI assistant that will allow you to draft your content, text, images, and videos with surgical precision. You have access to over 37 models, which will allow you to craft very high quality content. From your dashboard here, all you have to do is click on AI Writer. First, you'll enter the target query you want to work on. So here, for example, we'll type how to plant tomatoes, which is supposed to be our target query. So you obviously have access to a huge number of languages here. There must be over 40 languages or so. So here, obviously for this example, we'll stick with French. Next, we'll click on Next. So how does the data part work? So quite simply, we're going to scrape Google and retrieve the top results for the query you entered. You also have the option to add your own URLs. They will be scraped, the content will be retrieved and analyzed, which will then help you write your content, to help you draft your content, and of course to define a pattern for the search intent in terms of word count and so on and so forth. So for this example, I'm not going to add a URL. I already have 10 selected. So you can of course deselect the sites you don't want to retrieve. If, for example, there's a site whose content you're not a fan of, well, you just have to click on it, obviously, to deactivate it. Next, once the analysis has been launched, we'll click on Next. And then, quite simply, Automatic will retrieve the content. So you have logs here that let you see if the content was retrieved or not, because obviously it's possible for it to be blocked. There, for instance, you see on this site, there's a block. After that, what's going to happen? We're going to have a brief generated. So this brief will simply be used, a summary of the results. So basically in the brief, you'll find the retrieval of the data that was gathered beforehand from the top results. It will be integrated directly into it and will therefore summarize the topic a bit. Obviously some pretty useful information. So if, for example, you have dates, etc., everything will be retrieved in there. You can of course modify it, if you have specific requests for your content brief for the generation. Here, you just simply need to add what you want. Then entities and people. So these are the entities and people that are redundant in the text, and that come up quite often to create a sort of common intent. The recurring keywords, obviously with the density, which we'll see right after. And then regarding the intent, we're actually going to calculate averages simply in relation to your competitors for your query. So for example, here we'll see the average content lengths. So we can see here that the top 10 results on Google for how to plant tomatoes are on average 1,542 words long. The reading time, obviously the structures. So on average, 5H2s, 6H3s, 0H4s. Bullet points here, we can see we have 2 lists. In tables, we have 0 tables here. Media, so we'll have 2 images and 8 videos on average. So that's possible, as it can correspond to tutorials, obviously within the pages. And here for external links, on average, we have 1 external link per page. So this actually defines a kind of pattern for the search intent that will be used for writing your content. Of course, you'll be able to touch all of this up. You can also, regenerate the entire brief here, of course, if you prefer to redo it completely. Once that's done, you've made your changes, you've done what you wanted. We're going to click Next and we'll get to the titles. So for the titles, what's going to happen? We're going to generate an AI title for you, based, in fact, here as well, on the intents we'll retrieve from the SERPs. So here, for example, you have the titles as an example of the results that were, retrieved from the SERPs in order to match. So it's an example. Here you have 10 tips. You can have queries like that for certain target queries where you'll have the top, the best, etc. So that allows you to stick to the pattern a little bit. So you can obviously modify it by hand here if you already have an idea for a title for your article. Otherwise, we can suggest titles for you here. You can refresh if you want to get other title ideas. And a visualization here, of course, of what's already present in the SERP so as to stick to the pattern a little bit. So here for the example, I'm going to keep the title that was suggested to me, Next. And so we'll move on to the structure. We retrieved a pattern at the intent level for your query that stipulated a number of H2s, a number of H3s, based on an average that was done from the scraping that was performed to retrieve the data from the top results in Google. So here we're going to apply it, and so we'll generate a structure for you directly. So H2, H3, trying to keep the average we got. So obviously you can touch up the entirety of your subheadings, your HNs here. You can also generate more by clicking on plus. You can delete them, you can shift them, you can drag and drop them, so you can modify them like that. If you need to move them, there's no problem. You can regenerate the entire plan, of course. And if needed, here we can regenerate an H2 and then an H3. In short, you have control over the complete structure, and you will obviously have control later on. When we generate the content, since obviously it will be editable, but at least it already provides a structure for the generation of your content. So here I'm going to click next. You will obviously have a rider if you want to specify a rider who will be optimized, not to be confused with a WordPress profile. Here we're on a content generator, an assistant. So here, this will be taken into account, of course, for the writing of your content. So here I'm going to put farmer. You can choose the style, of course, so dynamic. And custom instructions here too, if you want to put instructions on the persona. In fact, who will write your content? You can do it here, of course. Which also allows to improve the content a little bit. This being done, now we're going to move on to everything is set up. Okay. Basically, we're going to generate our article here. Once the text is generated, we'll ask you beforehand to generate the images. Since AI images have a cost, obviously we prefer to have you validate it up front, because sometimes you have articles that will require 10 images in the pattern. So rather than imposing the image generation on you, we prefer to ask you first. So here, just before the full generation, you select the image model. So you simply have to, come here and select the image model you want there. So for example, here, I've chosen my AI image model, GPT-1 medium for 2 images. So you can adjust it here if you only want 1. So quite simply, why 2 images? Because we defined that there were 2 in the pattern. You can obviously add more later. It's just to have a common base with the search intent and thus have a similarity, in fact, with the top 10 Google results to match the target query a bit. So there you go, here. You also have the cost, depending on the models you've chosen. There. So here, we're going to generate the images. There, our article is generated. Here, so you obviously have a structure there with links. So you obviously have all your links, your external links, internal links, if you selected the site beforehand. Here, the table of contents that you can obviously hide, if you want, with some small shortcuts. So all the text has been generated. My 2 images here were generated with GPT. You have here the possibility to generate some alt tags, some directly. So they are generated by default. You can regenerate them or enter them, of course, if you wish. Here, when we look at the monitor, you have an SEO monitor, which corresponds to keyword density, length, of content, the structure, so all the HNs and the media. But we've put here, obviously, the clickable SERPs, to go and check the competition a bit. And then the text analysis, so the number of words, so here, which was almost respected, 1442 words out of 1500. The reading time, the number of images and videos. So if there's no video, we can add them. The structure is the same, H2, H3, H4. So basically the stats are based on the competitors and obviously the keywords. So here we can see that garden was used once out of 4. So we can, we can add more, etc., etc. So there you go, depending on the content, you can optimize like that based on the competitors, simply it's the easiest way on the functioning of the assistant. So here, add a featured image. So featured, why? Because you will be able to publish directly on your WordPress site or simply download this article. Here, you're on another CMS, or if you've built the site directly in static or something else. So here's the classic toolbar, obviously from the WYSIWYG, so you're familiar with that. I'm going to generate a featured image, so I can either add an image here by going through image banks like Unsplash, Pexels, and Pixabay, and so on, with a simple search, or here I can generate one. An important thing, very important, here in the nav bar, you have the models. So text models here, so OpenAI, Mistral, Anthropic, Google, DeepSeek, Grok, which are frequently updated, of course, between the models, the new models, and the versions. And the same for images. So OpenAI, Stable Diffusion, Ideogram, Flux, and Grok as well, with Grok 3 coming soon. You can change models while you're writing. That's quite interesting, especially for images, for example. So here, for example, I generated with GPT medium, and now I'd like to do it with high. So quite simply, I'm going to select the model here, the large image model from OpenAI, and here I'm going to generate an image. So there's a direct relationship, so you can do it manually with your own prompt if needed, or directly automatically. It will use the site's content and generate an image related to your content, of course. And so obviously, if you already have a prompt related to your content, you can simply come and enter your prompt. We'll see that right after if you want, to generate the perfect image for your content. While the image is generating here regarding the text, so this is also quite interesting. You'll be able, for example, to simply press enter below a paragraph or some text. From there, you'll get a menu. What is this menu? It's simply a menu that will allow you to continue generating content with AI. Here you'll have Write with AI, so simply a raw mode where you'll just enter the prompt. There you go, quite simply of what you want to generate. Here, continue writing, which simply lets you continue writing from the text above, so it will just keep writing the text. Generate an additional paragraph. This will also be contextual, meaning the text above and below will be carefully taken into account for any type of content generation process. This ensures there's a direct relationship with the content you're generating. Otherwise, it makes no sense. There, the image has been generated. You can click on it. I'll close this. There, you can click on it. So it's the same here, the alt text. You can modify it. Here, for example, the image isn't great. So we can regenerate it or override it directly with image banks if needed, or reprompt it, etc. No problem, or even delete it. Well, for the example, we'll leave it. Then you can generate a complete section, so with headings and so on. You can create big chunks of text. Here too, it's always related, obviously, to the content, of course, and what you have as text and content before and below the content, which will be taken into account for the generation. Here you can generate a table, you can generate a list. We have that too. Generate H tags. So H2, H3, H4, generate an image. So exactly the same style. There, you'll click here, generate manually with your own prompt that you can enter here, or automatically by clicking here. There, it will generate an image for us. So here too, it will be related. If, for example, you generate an image under an H2, the relationship that will be made with the image will be related to the H2, there to be consistent, or the H3. So as to not have redundancy in the visuals on the images, for example, only on the title, and to be a little more precise on the generation of the images. And so same thing here, if you want to generate an image with Flux, for example, we could have very well selected Flux Pro 1 and told it, okay, at this point, I'd rather have an image from Flux, quite simply. This is generating, there our image has been generated. Here we can find the alt text, obviously, that will be placed here, and you can regenerate it. Regarding the text, well, quite simply there, we'll do a test. Here we want to put a table, so I'm going to click on Generate a Table. And so, quite simply, it's going to add a table related to the paragraph you're in. And in this case, quite simply, there, for example, when to plant tomatoes, calendar, climate, and tips for a successful start, the table is related. You see, that's pretty cool. Here, I'm currently on GPT-4o. Now I'm switching over here to GPT-4 Mini, okay? I'm going to go here to another section, quite simply, and I'm going to generate a list that will be generated with GPT 4.1 Mini. There you go. So you can switch models like that, image and text, permanently in your content. There, here, for example, there, I have my list that has just been created. Okay. I'm going to come here, for example, all the way at the bottom before the FAQ, there. And I want to continue simply to have a longer text, let's say. I'm going to generate a complete section, which will, in fact, so same thing, all the text will be sent to provide context. I selected GPT 4.1 Mini. There, I could have taken Mistral, I could have taken Claude 3.7, I could have taken anything. And there, here, as you can see, we've generated a small section in addition. There, on always on the continuation, in fact, without having too many anomalies, obviously, in the content, so that it's not just complete nonsense. There, regarding the texts, we can also, of course, maybe not here, we'll put it there, maintained here under an H2, let's say, add a YouTube video. So manually, you put in the link, it adds it, nothing magical. Otherwise, you can do it automatically. So same thing, it will find the theme, and we're going to add a YouTube video related to maintaining tomato plants, watering, pruning, and harvesting without diseases. There, tomato sowing, my production, and so on. So we have a YouTube video that's related. There you go. As for content management, obviously you can adapt it to your strategy, no problem at all. As for around the assistant here, obviously you have a sidebar where you can find all your history, because obviously we save every piece of content you create. So you'll be able to go back and edit all your content, which is pretty nice. Here you can regenerate the entire content if needed. Here you can directly download a zip file with the images, etc., the text, the HTML version of your content, so you can obviously adapt it, or rather copy paste it if you don't have WordPress, for example, or publish it directly to WordPress here, quite simply by selecting the post type. So if you want a page, an article, etc. The status, if you want to select a date for a schedule. So this isn't the autopilot feature, but if, for example, you want to post this article in 15 days. I don't know what you want to do, but there you go. Here, well, you just have to and select a date. Then you can, on WordPress, select an author, of course. The category, automatically associate your tags if you need to generate tags. Automatically associate with categories. Generate automatic tags if you need them, or do it by hand. Then here, obviously, the SEO tags automatically. If you have Yoast SEO, SEO Press, Rank Math, there's an automatic detection, and you can then generate a title here or a description tag, and then simply publish from the dashboard, and it will be posted on your site.